This is going to be a bit of a different video, but let's get into it because I hope that by sharing my story and the lessons I've learned, it will be able to help someone else. Or maybe it will just be therapeutic for me and serve as a good reference point for later on down the line. Anyway, it's actually kind of funny how there are just certain events that are prone to make us reflect on life, like where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. It's like every time there's a holiday or a wedding or a funeral or a birthday, it's like we just kind of tend to have all the feelings or all our thoughts kind of come to the surface in a sense, unless we're actively trying to push them down. So, since I will be turning 29 this April of 2023, and while I'm not exactly sure when this video will be up, I'm definitely going to be getting out there early. It's just kind of interesting as I take stock of where I am in life, and there is definitely a lot in process on that for sure. There is still this kind of one sticking point in that I feel I don't really have someone that is really my friend in title. And for clarity, I mean I'm referring to someone who is totally filling that title. As I do have community and I at least attempt to be a friend in a way to most people, but there isn't someone I have who is kind of there for me in a sense. And this is probably the most selfish part and maybe the point I need to change the most. But it often feels like I'm the tag along or the extra rather than someone who's in most relationships. So, or I have the relationship because I'm there rather than having someone who's actually who's there for me in a sense, or who came because I was there. So it's just kind of this different kind of thing that I probably need to work on, to be honest. But it's just one of those things that tended to mean the world to me in a sense, knowing that I'm not the title on or the extra, but kind of the main point of it. And that is probably selfish, but there's also someone to have fun with. There isn't really someone I would call up to say, hey, let's go hang out, let's go for a hike, let's go check out the museum, let's go play a game, or whatever it is, to just do something fun together. There isn't really someone I can think of that's like, hey, let's do that. And there's also this thing of face to face and being present with each other. And again, the internet is great for establishing long distance connections and communications, but it doesn't, like, video chats don't really hold a candle to just being able to be present with someone. It's like awkward silence on video is like totally different from like just being able to be in silence with someone else and just to know that they're thinking or know what they're doing or to just be present without the expectations of having to entertain the other person. And there may be conversation, but also the ability to just be still and be can be very interesting. And there's also the thing of supporting and building. And again, we often think only in affirmation of what we want in relationships, but also that challenge part, having the ironing sharpening the iron to grow better together in a sense. So I guess what I mean by friend as a title is someone you do life with and who does life with you. It's just kind of something that I feel has been lacking in my life. And maybe I need to see places where there's not one person who fills all those roles, but there's many different people who fill those roles. And so then I'm open to change, but it's like also being like, should I hold out hope for having someone who does fill all those roles? And I also know that with hindsight being 2020, I can definitely look back and see where I probably could have made different choices. Because growing up, I did have a best friend who I did pretty much everything with. But the thing was, it was often just him. And it's kind of seen later how, looking back, I can tell I was a selfish brat or how I didn't really think that far ahead. But it was like, I have a best friend. I'm good. And I'm set. But after he ended up moving when I was like 10, I then began closing myself off right when most people might actually be getting to the most engaged point in their social circle. It's like learning to just meet other people and so forth. So it's just, and again, I didn't even think about how I could keep that relationship going strong at a long distance. So it's just kind of seeing all those things. And during that process, even when it did feel like I had connected with someone, it seemed like soon they would end up leaving. And it's just kind of also brings that thing to connection, is that we often view connection differently than other people. We have our own ideas of what really sparked a connection, so a simple action can mean the world to us, but it can just be a kindness that someone does. And so it's just kind of that thing of that how we connect with others is not always how they connect with us. And so again, that kind of is just a process we go through and learn. And so all it kind of did was made it seem easier to keep building up these walls brick by brick than leaving myself open to loving and losing it in. In addition, I kind of ended up becoming more focused on completing tasks than actually interacting with people. So it's like I would go to an event and be like, okay, we need to get this done, this done, this done, this done. And also, but there wasn't really thought to interaction with others. I was even part of a gaming group for a while where I would even go to tournaments, but I was like focused on the match and the setup and so forth rather than actually connecting with people and forming deep connections with people who actually liked stuff I did. But since I know that isn't what I wanted and how I wanted to live my life, there was one year that I decided that my resolution would be to build relationships. So heading into 2020, I was like, this is the year that all changes. Talked about timing, huh? And there's kind of this benefit in that it did bring a lot of things to the surface as well, but there also tried a few hits that just kind of kept tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. So it actually might have ended up setting me back quite a bit. So I guess I'm pretty much saying that I'm still a work in progress. And before you say that I'm putting too much blame on myself, that I was a kid at some of these points and didn't know much better, I feel that the more responsibility I take for where I am, the more power I gain in order to change where I'm going. So I guess the lessons I've learned and my mindset going forward is as follows. Since there are these markers for being an eccentric, secluded, starving artist that are trying to be a part of my story, I'm working on how to be that storyteller, but also be in community and provide for my family. And I guess that's kind of part of the point of this channel, is to share what I learned during that process with people and also what I'm doing, because then storytellers need an audience, but also the principles of community and provision generally apply in more areas than just what I'm looking in. So what I learn is able to be shared otherwise. So I'm hoping I'm able to provide that to you. But again, there's kind of this thing of socialization, that's community. And it's often with young animals that we have to kind of socialize them so that they're actually knowing that like other dogs are okay or other people are okay, because it's like if we keep a dog as like we're their only interaction, they kind of become protective of their pet, and it's like if a suitor comes, then they may be aggressive towards the suitor, or if they did want other dogs, they may end up being aggressive. And it's like we also need to realize that we need to be socialized because sometimes we tend not to. And I'm saying that as an introverted, maybe I'm an ambivert, but introverted son of introverts who was homeschooled, so then kind of tending not towards the high ends of interaction. So I know I need to make more of an effort in order to possibly achieve the same results or prioritize it more to do something that someone else would have come naturally to them. And so that's just kind of thoughts in general. And there's also the thing about how relationships are kind of like fire, because there's both safety and danger there, provision and risk, or reward and risk, however you want to say it. But because I know I've been burned, and I've probably burned other people, but all the thing is that relationships bring that warmth and light to life that just makes life so much more worth living. And so it's kind of being in that process and knowing that and tending to it so that the fire is under control or respected. It's learning the boundaries, learning the how to handle things and so forth. But it's also know I can't really live my life waiting for a person who will be the one who stays. So maybe I need to become the person who stays, being the one who stays. And realizing that I can't always chase after someone because sometimes people don't actually want me in their life or want to be in my life. And so learning that effort and learning kind of what that takes is the process I'm going through. But I also want to be able to have the light in the window or keeping the porch light on, however you want to say it, the spot at the table for people who do leave but also come back, because then life can take us on completely separate directions or bring us back around again and again. But anyway, I guess that's a part of my story. If you have thoughts about it or want to share parts of your own story, feel free to in the comments below. Anyway, I'm Jonah. You've been watching Lions Made Media. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.